All right, everybody, welcome into another edition of Trust the Mikes, a Sixers pod. I am your host, Mike Gill, along with Michael Kasky-Blomain. Of course, the Sixers coming off their worst loss of the season last night. We're going to dive into that and more. The trade deadline next week. Let's get into it all. Of course, Michael Kasky-Blomain is back for another edition of Trust the Mikes. What's going on, MKB?
What's up, Mike? How you doing?
Well, that was ugly yesterday, man. I got the day off because we carry the Sixers games on the radio. I gave more of an effort. I wasn't even working yesterday.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. The Sixers are lucky that game was not in Philly, Mike, because the booze would have been raining down in that one.
I saw at one point during the game, MKB, you posted that that was a fireable offense for the coach. I mean, was that like a irrational I'm watching this game take, or should we talk about this a little deeper?
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely talk about it. Obviously, that was a little bit in jest. I don't think any individual game is a fireable offense in the NBA. Over the course of 82, you have some stinkers. But as you know, I thought it would have been justified if the Sixers moved on from Nick Nurse after last season. Not surprised that they didn't. He got the benefit of the doubt from all the injuries and the tough lineup situation last year. But he has just shown me nothing this year at all to give me confidence that he's the right guy to lead this team, to the conference finals, even for the first time in 20 plus years. In games like yesterday, I know they're without Joel Embiid. I know they're without Paul George. I know it's a random 3:00 afternoon game in Charlotte on a Monday in January, but the team was just completely unprepared, flat, unmotivated, lethargic, like every adjective you could use to describe like a poorly prepared team. That was the Sixers yesterday, Mike, and it's been an issue all year, whether it's coming out of halftime flat in the third quarter, whether it's playing down to opponents that you should be able to beat handily. Like, it's been a consistent issue under Nick Nurse. So obviously, I didn't think yesterday just itself was a fireable offense, but Nick Nurse's tenure here in totality is not moving me in a positive direction, Mike.
So, I liked Nurse in Toronto, and when he got hired here, I think a lot of people liked the move. This guy was a championship coach in Toronto with not like the greatest roster. Like, you had an epic Kawhi Leonard season, but it wasn't like, wow, Pascal Siakam and Kyle Lowry. Like, they had like some good, like, not all-star players, but like a notch below all-stars. And what he did with that team, people were like, he got the most out of that team. Like in that finals against Golden State, he's throwing the kitchen sink at them. You almost feel like he coached his ass off that one season, and it like tired him out so much that he just lost it. Like, you never see these creative, like defensive crazy things that he used to do. Some nights he's got this offense rolling with some nice, DHOs and two-mans that they go with. They run some nice stuff. And then the next night you're like, what happened? It is a lot of inconsistency. I like the Nurse hire. I got to say, the other day against the Knicks, they go on a 15-0 run. No timeout, nothing, just 15-0. Now, to be fair, they go on a 15-0 run. The Sixers then answer with a 5-0 run. Brown calls timeout right away, and the Sixers proceeded to go on a 7-0 run after that. So they called the timeout with the 5-0. The Sixers go down 15-0 and don't call the timeout. They end up getting back in the game. So however you want to look at it. But there are times where Nurse just seems like he's asleep at the wheel with this team, and he's almost like, I don't have my guys tonight, whatever. And then other nights it's like, hey, I'm going to coach my ass off tonight because we got everybody and I think we got a good shot here. It has been disappointing. I will agree with that.
It's the inconsistency, Mike. It's maddening because it feels like, on a good night, the Sixers could go out and beat any team in the league. Like, we've seen it. Great win over the Rockets in overtime last week. Good wins over the Knicks earlier in the season. But then you come out against like a Hornets team or a Wizards team that you should be able to take care of business against. And to me, stuff like that, when you see guys just playing without motivation, without energy, not getting back on defense, no rim protection, no transition defense, no timeouts and runs, like you said, that's all coaching to me. And, with the Nick Nurse with Toronto thing, just to touch on it real quick, I've always been of the slight opinion. He's almost, to me, what people say Doc Rivers is. He got an NBA championship, and I won't say he got lucky with it. That Raptors team was stacked, Mike. Prime Kyle Lowry, Danny Green, best season of Kawhi Leonard's life, Ibaka, Marc Gasol, just like a great team. gets a Warriors team in the NBA Finals that loses Kevin Durant, it loses Klay Thompson, 3 straight finals before that. Like, I'm not going to say that they were lucky, but that Raptors run was one of those that, like, I mean, the Sixers could have beat them in that series, and I thought the Sixers were the better team that year. Obviously, the Kawhi balance came out, and now, Nick gets the title and he gets to ride it, but there's been nothing from him. Even those last couple years in Toronto on his way out, Mike, I thought that he was, like you said, maybe he shot his load in that championship run, but since then there's been no creativity. The defense is bad, the offensive execution, and there's nothing there.
Well, one of the things that he got criticized for during the Toronto runs was he just wouldn't, play guys. I mean, he just rode his starters. And you see a game yesterday, the team's down 50. I mean, they're down 50 at
Why is Maxey still on the court?
Right. I mean, that game in the third quarter, you're down 40 with like 7 minutes left. And I'm like, all right, everybody out. Like, immediately, we've lost today. We'll live to fight another day. And I see Edgecombe and Oubre and Maxey, and I'm thinking, dude, what are you doing?
Especially when it's the first night of a back-to-back. Like, that should have been the case anyway. But then you're back playing tonight, and you're riding Maxey in the third quarter when you're down by 40. Like,
that was, like, to me, I'm sitting there like, why are these guys still out here? We're going to talk about McCain a little bit later, but that's my chance to say, let me give McCain a little burn here. Maybe I can jumpstart here. And I think they maybe did that, but finally, a little too late. Like, I think they should have said, look, just get out there and play, dude. Yeah. But the other day, they played back-to-back. It was, when was that? They played it Pacers Suns, I guess. They played a back-to-back on the one, and you have a situation where, what's it called? Maxey played 40 minutes on the back-to-back 2 nights in a row, and it's like, dude, like, you can't – and it's starting to look like – was it that one or was it the game – man, they played a back-to-back. Was it that game, the Pacers Suns, where they played the back-to-back? And you're like, they played back-to-back. He played 40 minutes in both games. But you're starting to see him wear a little bit. I think you are. 100%. Like yesterday, he looked like he was cooked.
100%, Mike. That was the one thing I've noticed, not even just yesterday, but over the past couple weeks. Like, there's the rookie wall that you see players hit. And to me, it looks like Tyrese Maxey is hitting a wall just from all the use and all the offensive burden that's been on his shoulders. Obviously, Joel being back and looking a lot better recently has helped. But this whole season, Tyrese Maxey's been asked to basically carry the Sixers offense on his back and to log, more minutes than I think you'd have to look. I saw a thing on Twitter that said he's playing the most minutes per game since like Kobe Bryant in like 2011 or something like that on the Lakers. Like, the minutes that Maxey's clocking this season is crazy, and it's bound to happen. I mean, we're lucky that it's not an injury issue we're talking about, Mike, with all this use, but at the stretch of games, like when he's playing 40 minutes and then you're asking him in these crunch time games to carry the offense, I think you're seeing it kind of catch up to him. And last night was a perfect example. He didn't have legs, like the shots weren't falling. He was playing out of control and like out of pace. And it just looks like, you got to find time to get him a rest, especially if you want to make a playoff run and rely on him to be the guy. Like, he needs a little bit of rest.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into some of the options here because obviously he's an All-Star. He's going to play in the All-Star game, so he's not going to get that rest over the All-Star break, although I don't even know what the All-Star game is, to be honest with you. I have no idea they're doing. No, what they have, like is it like the World or what are they doing?
It's some sort of a world round robin tournament where I think there's 3 teams, 2 American based and 1 foreign based, and they play in some sort of a round robin tournament. It's obviously the first year that they're doing this, so it's going to be one of those things where we kind of figure it out as we go. But that's kind of the gist that I picked up from what it's going to be.
By the way, the one day too, you had the Sixers. Maxey played 40 against the Pacers on the Monday night. And then they played the Suns on the back-to-back. That was a game that they lost 116-110. And in that game, Maxey played 43 minutes. So back-to-back nights, he's playing 40-plus minutes on the 2 days back-to-back. And then they go and play the Rockets in that game, which ends up going to overtime. By the way, Embiid played 46 minutes in that game. Maxey played 43. So in 3 games in a row, he's playing over 40 minutes in those games. So I don't think he can keep this pace up. But some of the things, that was the worst loss of the season. And listen, they happen. Everybody has a game where you lose by 40, 50 points. That was terrible. Tonight, we'll see how they bounce back. No, I try not to judge the team all that much when it's a non-Embiid, especially a non-Embiid and George game, because those games, it's like, yeah, you're not going to win that game. That's the way it used to be. Now, they were playing better without Embiid, but recently, Embiid's off the floor. I mean, Bona was a minus 15 in 7 minutes the other night. I mean, that's impossible almost to do. I don't understand why they just do not play Drummond at all in the nights Embiid plays.
It not only that, Mike. I'm sure you've seen. I think it was our buddy Keith Pompey from the Inquirer. They're entertaining trade offers for Andre Drummond to me, which just makes literally zero sense. This is a team that can't rebound, and he is far and away like the only good rebounder, your best rebounder on a team. And to your point, like I like Bona. I'm a big Bona guy. I think you are too. He's shown a lot of flashes, but to me, he's not demonstrated that he could be your reliable, like every night backup center. And especially, I mean, Joel's been available recently, which has been great, obviously. But there's going to be games he misses down the stretch of the season. There could be every playoff series, it seems he ends up missing a game or two. And if you trade Drummond, you're telling me you're going into a game with Bona as your only legitimate center. I don't feel good about that, Mike. Like it doesn't make sense. And to touch on something,
what's the messaging though that they're trying to shed money?
Well, right. That's the thing. If that's the thing that's frustrating too, Mike. If there was a deal where you could say, all right, we're going to move Andre Drummond and like a second round pick to make an upgrade for the roster for this team that we think would be a better fit, could play more than Drummond, sure. But that's not going to be out there. If you're talking about trading Drummond, to me, I read that as we're trying to duck the tax. And to me, like saving Josh Harris $5-6 million on the luxury tax should not be the priority for a Sixers team that's in the playoff conversation this year after a dreadful season last year. Like the fact that they've been able to bounce back so quickly, they should be doing everything they can to go all in on this team with Joel playing maybe the best we'll see him play again, Maxey playing at an all-star MVP level. Like ducking the tax, Mike, should not be a priority for the Sixers this trade deadline.
Right. And, even yesterday in a horrible game, Drummond played 19 minutes and still grabbed 7 boards, 5 on the offensive side. So on a team that can't rebound a lick, I mean, the last week we did the pod 2 weeks ago. We were off last week. But we were trying to find any trade scenario where the Sixers could try to match up with someone that can rebound. And now you're saying the one guy that can grab a board, we're probably going to try to trade is crazy. After, I don't know if you caught this, the Sixer game was on Saturday, was on ABC. So you had the inside of the NBA guys, Barkley, Shaq, and Kenny, and Ernie. Barkley at halftime says, if the Sixers have this Joel Embiid, now he had 28 points at halftime, and he's like, if the Sixers have Joel Embiid, the Pistons ain't beating them. So I don't know that that's accurate or not, but point being, they're viewed as, if they're healthy, they're every bit as good as this wide-open Eastern Conference is. And I'm thinking, how the hell do you trade the one guy that can grab a rebound for you? And as you just said, newsflash, Embiid's not the most reliable guy in the world, so if he can't play a game and you trade Andre Drummond, you're going to play a Bona 40 minutes? I mean, right. What are we talking about here now? I don't mind my man Charles Bassey's back. I wouldn't mind seeing him get some minutes. I kid. Now, they sent him to Delaware, and that was like a roster thing. They had to bring him on to fill a spot because of this whole two-way stuff they got going on, which has got to be resolved, I guess, by tonight, right?
Yeah, so Bassey coming on basically extends how many games they could play. There's weird like NBA rules. If you have guys on two-way contracts and you don't have a full 15 men on your roster, you're capped at 90 total games between your 3 guys on two-way contracts. If you have the 15, that 90 total cap kind of disappears. So by bringing Bassey in, it gets them. They can extend how long they play, Walker and Barlow before having to convert those deals into full standard NBA contracts, which ultimately, if they want those guys to be available in the playoffs, Mike, they have to convert those. Like Barlow will not be able to play for the Sixers in the playoffs unless that two-way deal is ultimately converted to a standard NBA contract.
And they got to do that by a certain date to make sure that gets him in the playoffs. Jabari Walker as well is another one. I would imagine they're going to want both those guys, Barlow definitively, but Jabari Walker, who's been a DNP some nights, and then when George doesn't play, he seems so – I don't know that he's as important, but I would imagine they want both those guys. So they're going to have to figure out fill in a roster spot with Walker and Barlow, they're probably going to have to get rid of somebody here.
100%, Mike. My guess is that they do this Bassey thing. They do a 10-day, which will take the team through the trade deadline, which is next Thursday, the 5th. At that point, I'm assuming there will be some sort of move to free up a roster spot, whether that's Drummond, whether it's Eric Gordon, Justin, like something on the back end will be moved. And then ultimately, I think Barlow will be converted into that final roster spot. I'm not sure about Walker. They'll have to figure that out. But I think that's the plan with the Bassey 10-day signing, is to kind of take the roster past the trade deadline, because after the trade deadline, obviously they'll have a better idea of, who's going to be here for the final stretch and go from there.
So we were playing with the trade machine the last time we did this. Did you come up with anything good, or I struggled, man. I could not really get anything to match.
Unless, we touched on, Mike, unless you're talking about including Paul George's $51 million salary, there's nothing that you can do to move the needle for the Sixers team. I do expect there to be some sort of a move. I was looking it up. Daryl Morey is 5 for 5 on making a trade since he's been with the Sixers on the trade deadline. There's been something every single year since he's been in Philly. So I do expect there to be something, but there's just nothing that could substantially raise the ceiling of this team, Mike, unless you're talking about moving a huge salary like the Paul George deal. Even if you trade Andre Drummond at $5 million or Kelly Oubre at $8 million, Jared McCain at $4 million, none of these moves are going to bring something back that's going to substantially alter the makeup of this team this season. So it is what it is, Mike. Unless you're going to move Paul George, and there's been no rumblings from the team, no rumblings from reporting that's going to happen. They're just so limited in what they could do at this deadline.
All right, I want to get into McCain and Grimes here and what you're seeing there. McCain played 23 minutes in the blowout and actually showed a little something. 4 of 8 from 3, 6 of 13 from the field, 16 points. Finally looked like something. Now, Grimes played 26 minutes. He had 14 points, 0 of 2 from 3. He is starting to look like he's hitting the wall a little bit. Do you see, Grimes, McCain here? Can McCain regain some confidence from Nurse and kind of take over some of those Grimes minutes, or are they just out on McCain?
I can't say definitively, Mike, because things could change, but I would say right now they're probably about as far out on McCain as you can be. Yesterday, obviously was I think a positive that he was probably the only silver lining of that blowout was that he was able to get a bunch of those garbage time minutes and see some. I think he knocked down 4 threes in that game yesterday, 4 for 8, 16 points. Production wise, it was his best game. But man, Mike, early in that game when it was still a game and he checked in, he had you probably saw this, back-to-back wide open 3-pointers in the first quarter. He had a corner 3, airballed it right over the hoop. Same possession, they got an offensive rebound, kicked it back out to him on the wing, rushed it, clanked it. He just does not look like he's playing with any confidence, even as a spot-up shooter, Mike, which is the one thing earlier this season that you could at least say, hey, he can still do that. But the playmaking's not there. The defense isn't there. He's never been a rebounder. If the shooting isn't there, Mike, it's just really difficult for me to see a way that he could get more minutes for himself in this rotation. Nick Nurse just does not seem to be a priority to get him out there.
Right, and he would be a guy that you're saying, listen, you got to get Maxey less minutes.
Well, that's the thing.
The question would be, do they want to get those less minutes by giving McCain more minutes? And it doesn't seem that they're ready to do that yet. And it almost seems like when he's out there, that his teammates don't trust him all that much either.
It is starting to look like that, Mike, especially, with Maxey specifically. I think you see a couple times where McCain's open on the wing and he's calling for it, and Maxey sees it and decides I'm taking this, I'm going one-on-one. And I think that's, if you don't trust yourself, Mike, it's going to be hard for your teammates to trust you. And unfortunately, that to me, from, a viewing perspective, that's kind of seems like where we're at with Jared McCain right now. His own confidence is low. And when that's the case, it's hard for the guys around you to have confidence in you.
What would the messaging be if they ended up moving Oubre?
It depends. It's almost the same conversation with Drummond, Mike. If you move Oubre strictly to move Oubre to get the money off the books, I think the messaging is terrible. If there's something in a way that you move him to bring something back that helps the team in this season, It depends, but if you're literally just, I mean, I think I'm a little bit higher on Kelly Oubre than some Sixers fans are. I see a lot of Sixers fans on, Twitter and social media not too happy with him, which is, he's not a perfect player by any means, but this is a guy that plays hard, gives you a good defensive effort. I thought in that Rockets overtime game, people didn't talk about this. He played really good defense on Kevin Durant, like down the stretch of that game. Barlow was guarding him early, but when we were talking like fourth quarter and overtime, it was Kelly Oubre who was sticking Durant and getting up in his grill, like making things difficult, doing small stuff like that. A guy that can give you 20 any night. Like he's valuable on this Sixers team to me, Mike, especially whether it's starting or off the bench. So if you just get rid of him for the sake of getting rid of him, messaging is terrible. If there's something that you could bring back, I mean, he has an $8 million salary. It's a little bit more than the Drummond thing. So maybe it opens up a couple more options if you throw in like him and Picks and Gordon or McCain. Like maybe there's something there, Mike. But again, like it's the same thing. If you're making a move solely to duck under the cap and duck under the tax, I'm not a fan of that at all.
Well, and it almost seems like when they're at full strength, having Oubre complements them well. I was a little interested to see, like, they pretty much have gone to Oubre over Barlow now when they're at full strength. Barlow's kind of been bounced to the bench. And I think losing Oubre, could they be saying, hey, they're interchangeable? Because I think one thing that they have now that they haven't had in the past, you mentioned Oubre, is a guy who's a little longer that can defend shorter guards, like Brunson, guys like that, to give those guys a little bit of problem, like teams have done with Embiid. They've put smaller guys on Embiid, even though he can shoot over them, but that they just hound him. And Oubre, you mentioned with Kevin Durant, stuff like that. Barlow's another one of those guys where he's long and can kind of run around with some of these guys. So I don't know if the Sixers say, look, Oubre's expendable because we have a guy that can do some of those things. The problem is Oubre's a much better offensive player than Barlow is.
Right, and I think the Sixers need that. I mean, you've seen times where Maxey struggles if Joel's not out there. Like, to have another guy that can come in and spark you and hit. I mean, in that Rockets game, he had, I think, 4 threes in the first half, 3 or 4. Like, it can just give you some offense, and that's really important, Mike, and especially if that's complemented by effort on the defensive end. Like I said, he's not a perfect player, but I don't know that you're going to be able to do better, in the trade market for a guy that could be productive on both ends of the floor for your team.
Yeah, it's interesting because at full strength, they're pretty good. They have a little bit of depth, but you lose one guy, the depth goes out the window, and they probably still need another depth piece. That rebounder,
and some of that depth,
they definitely need a guy that can shoot.
And some of the depth you were counting on, it just hasn't panned out, Mike. Like you said, like with the Grimes and McCain playing so poorly, you already have a couple of roster spots that are basically like worthless when you're talking about Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon. And Justin Edwards has basically not scratched the rotation. So, I mean, if you're including Grimes and McCain, that's 5 out of your 15 roster spots that you're getting not much production from at all. And that's just, that's
Mike, you got Gordon, Lowry. I mean, those guys don't help a lick on the floor.
Right,
I mean, they might be invaluable in the locker room, but you can't turn to them in any situation on any night of the week. They're not giving you anything.
Waste the roster spot completely. So, I mean, you already have 2 of those. And if you have other guys that you were counting on for some of that depth production that aren't producing, you're in a tough spot. And like you said, then if you're already kind of short on your depth and then you miss one guy, like if Joel's out or Paul George is out. Speaking of which, I think one thing they need to do is if you have a back-to-back like in the game yesterday, and then you have to rest George and Embiid, why not stagger them? Like, why rest Paul George and Joel Embiid both against Charlotte and then have them both available against Milwaukee as opposed to having one available against Charlotte and having one available against Milwaukee? That's something that I was thinking.
I don't know that having either one of them yesterday would have helped, but I hear what you're saying. I mean, now you're like, thank God they're both playing tonight, because if you would have wasted one yesterday, look, Charlotte's been playing really good. When they have their starting 5 together, that team's tough, man.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I mean, they have Nick Nurse was talking about this on the radio, in the radio broadcast with Tom McGinnis. He was talking about the fact that, this is a team that is starting to hit in the draft. I mean, they're starting to nail guys like Miller, Ball, Knipple.
Yeah,
they've got those, Kalkbrenner's a nice little piece. And a lot of these teams where they differ from the Sixers is obviously the Sixers have Embiid. So one of their key pieces is their big man. But so many of these teams that the Sixers keep running into are these teams that just have big men who do nothing more than rebound, set screens, and just clear out. And are basically doing the dirty work. Like Isaiah Hartenstein is like the top of the level of that crew. But all these guys who all they do is set screens, roll, rebound, that kind of stuff. And the Sixers just don't have that guy who just, Bona is so raw and I think they're only teaching him on the fly. Where if you had a guy who was like 6'10", 6'11", and all he did was just set screens and rebound, and that was all he did, they're lacking that player.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think Bona has the potential, like you said, to be that player maybe eventually. But to your point, he's just so raw, and it ends up being when he plays extended minutes a lot of times, like you see yesterday, like it just can't hold up defensively. So no, I do agree that that's something that they could certainly use.
Like you're watching what Diabate did yesterday. All he does is he just rebounds. He's an athlete. He gets putbacks, tip-ins, all that stuff. But he's giving you like a double-double by just being on the floor as an athlete. And they don't have that guy.
I feel like Barlow could potentially be that guy. Like he's shown some flashes of that this year.
Yeah, it just doesn't, rebound enough for I'm just talking about a guy who's just there to just like Mitchell Robinson. All he does is rebound. That's all. Now, he got cooked by Embiid.
Yeah.
But, just that's all his job is, though. Don't score. Don't do anything. Just rebound and set screens for Brunson. And the Sixers just don't have that guy.
I think Ben Simmons is still available. Last time I checked.
I was never a Ben hater. I don't know that he excels in that role. We'll see. We'll get out on this. Do you perceive Ben Simmons ever returning to the league?
Ever? Man. I'd like to think that there's an opportunity for him eventually. The last reporting was that he's trying to get his back right to make like a full comeback. He's still young enough. The skill set was still there. I wouldn't be shocked. I don't think it's going to be this year. It seems like he's taken like a buffer year. I wouldn't be shocked if he landed like a training camp deal next year if he was still interested and there was enough intrigue by a team to hope that maybe a portion of the player that he was when he was an all-star here could still be there. So I wouldn't count him out completely, but I don't think it'll happen this year, Mike.
All right, Michael Kasky-Blomain, of course, Trust the Mics, a Sixers show. I have a lot of travel coming up here, so we're going to try to piece together our schedules. I'll be at the Super Bowl next week, trade deadline next week. So we'll try to pop something in before the trade deadline and get all that out for you here on Trust the Mics. Don't forget to subscribe on the YouTube channel, on Trust the Mics. You can follow on the X platform and more. But Sixers Bucks tonight, and then they have the Kings, and they have that West Coast trip coming up next week out in L.A. and Phoenix and Golden State. I'm going to be at the game in San Francisco against the Warriors, so looking forward to that. All right, MKB, good stuff, man.
All right, Mike, good talking to you.
All right, everybody, we'll talk to you next time right here on Trust the Mics.